Good evening. Welcome to Christ United Methodist Church Online. We are so glad that you have chosen to worship with us this Maundy Thursday. We will be blessed to hear from the children of our music, arts, and drama program as they take us on a journey of the stations of the cross. This devotional exercise of visiting and praying in front of each of the stations and meditating on the Passion of Christ stems from the practice of early Christian pilgrims who visited the scenes of the events in Jerusalem and walked the traditional route from the supposed location of Pilate's house all the way to Calvary. We hope that you are blessed by the service, and on behalf of the congregation, I welcome you, we bless you, and we behold the Christ in you.
We have been asked to shelter in place to keep one another safe. For us, this is an act of communal grace. The Lord has not left us nor forsaken us. In divine love, we are held securely. We are not alone. We are still together, united by our prayers and our witness of hope before the world. You are the one who has loved each of us from the world began. Even now, we are all being held in the security of loving arms. You are attentive to our every prayer, and through these prayers you have knitted us together. You are aware of our needs before they revealed at our horizon, and have begun to act before we know to cry out. Keep us attentive to the needs around us, so you might illuminate your gracious presence through our acts of kindness. Amen.
My name is Martha. You may have heard of me, but you probably haven't heard from me. When the Master, that is Jesus, came to Jerusalem, he often stayed with our family. That's my sister, Mary, my brother Lazarus, and me. When he came, crowds came with him. We were happy to be hosts, but it was a lot of work. I felt like I was constantly cooking and then cleaning and then doing the wash and then cooking again. Often, I felt like it was just me. Lazarus, of course, reclined with the men to hear Jesus teach, and so did Mary. A woman is to manage the home and make sure everyone is cared for. What did Mary do? She sat with the men, taking in the Master's teachings. I complained to Jesus about once. He said Mary chose the better part, leaving me all the work. She often has that faraway look in her eyes, like she knows something the rest of us don't know. It's like there's music playing only Mary can hear. It might be true, but that doesn't get the dishes washed or the meal cooked. Jesus said Mary made the right choice. See if I speak up again. Actually, Jesus has always encouraged me to speak. He treats us with the respect no other man has ever given a woman. I do love him deeply, and like everyone else, I am amazed by him. I was there when he brought my brother Lazarus back to life. We all believed the resurrection would come for everyone on the last day. He raised Lazarus, and after that, I wasn't sure what to think. I know Jesus has tremendous power, and I know he is very close to God, but he says things I don't understand. He said to me, I am the resurrection and the life, and who believes in me will never die. What does that mean? Tonight, I am especially worried. There's something in the air. Normally, this is the kind of thing Mary would fret about. In fact, she has been, not exactly fretting, but she's been staring into the distance, toward Jerusalem. Her gaze pierces the wind as she goes away in her head. Normally, I would say that's just Mary being Mary, but here's the thing, I feel it too. Tonight is the Passover meal. We were going to have Jesus and the disciples to our house, but he's meeting somewhere else in the home of a disciple I don't know. I thought I knew all who followed Jesus, the Master. The disciples have been acting funny. Yesterday, I asked Nathaniel about it, but he just joked and complimented me on my soup. This morning, I said something to John. He admitted something is up, but he didn't know what. The Romans have increased their guard in the city, and the high priest in temple is on edge. Everyone can feel it. Something is going to happen tonight, and I know it has something to do with Jesus. I just don't know what. I do wish he were having the Passover here. I have to make bread and get the wine ready. Our old uncle and some cousins are coming. We have to get ready.
Matthew chapter 26, verses 14 to 36. Judas Iscariot was one of the 12 disciples. He went to the chief priests and asked, "How much will you give me if I help you arrest Jesus?" They paid Judas 30 silver coins, and from then on, he started looking for a good chance to betray Jesus. On the first day of the festival of thin bread, Jesus' disciples came to him and asked, "Where do you want us to prepare the Passover meal?" Jesus told them to go to a certain man in the city and tell him, "Our teacher says, 'My time has come. I want to eat the Passover meal with my disciples in your home.'" They did as Jesus told them and prepared the meal. When Jesus was eating with his 12 disciples that evening, he said, "One of you will surely hand me over to my enemies." The disciples were very sad, and each one said to Jesus, "Lord, you can't mean me." He answered, "One of you men who has eaten with me from this dish will betray me. The Son of Man will die, as the scriptures say, but it's going to be terrible for the one who betrays me. That man would be better off if he had never been born." Judas said, "Teacher, you surely don't mean me." "That's what you say," Jesus replied. But later, Judas did betray him. During the meal, Jesus took some bread in his hands. He blessed the bread and broke it. Then he gave it to his disciples and said, "Take this and eat it. This is my body." Jesus picked up a cup of wine and gave thanks to God. He then gave it to his disciples and said, "Take this and drink it. This is my blood, and with it God makes his agreement with you. It will be poured out so that many people will have their sins forgiven. From now on, I am not going to drink any wine until I drink new wine with you in my Father's kingdom." Then they sang a hymn and went out to the Mount of Olives. Jesus said to his disciples, "During this very night, all of you will reject me, as the scriptures say. I will strike down the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered. But after I am raised to life, I will go to Galilee ahead of you." Peter spoke up, "Even if all the others reject you, I will never." Jesus replied, "I promise you that before a rooster crows tonight, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." But Peter said, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never say I don't know you." All the others said the same thing. Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. Travel with us as we chronicle Jesus' final week, from Gethsemane to his burial.
Jesus went out to the Mount of Olives, as he often did, and his disciples went with him. When they got there, he told them, "Pray that you won't be tested." Jesus walked on a little way before he knelt down and prayed. "Father, if you will, please, don't make me suffer by having me drink from this cup, but do what you want and not what I want." Then an angel from heaven came to help him. Jesus was in great pain, and he prayed so sincerely that his sweat fell to the ground like drops of blood. Jesus got up from praying and went over to his disciples. They were asleep and worn out from being so sad. He said to them, "Why are you asleep? Wake up and pray that you won't be tested." Have you ever been in a position where God was calling you to do something that you did not want to do? And would you be willing to lay down your life for another?
While Jesus was still speaking, a crowd came up. It was led by Judas, one of the 12 disciples. He went over to Jesus and greeted him with a kiss. Jesus asked, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When Jesus' disciples saw what was about to happen, they asked, "Lord, should we attack them with a sword?" One of the disciples even struck at the high priest's servant with his sword and cut off the servant's right ear. "Enough of that," Jesus said. Then he touched the servant's ear and healed it. Jesus spoke to the chief priests, the temple police, and the leaders who came to arrest him. He said, "Why do you come out with swords and clubs and treat me like a criminal? I was with you every day in the temple, and you didn't arrest me. But this is your time, and darkness is in control." Reflect on a moment when you have betrayed Jesus, or when you were betrayed by someone you love.
Jesus was arrested and led away to the house of the high priest, while Peter followed at a distance. Some people built a fire in the middle of the courtyard and were sitting around it. Peter sat there with them, and a servant girl saw him. Then, after she had looked at him carefully, she said, "This man was with Jesus." Peter said, "Woman, I don't even know that man." A little later, someone else saw Peter and said, "You are one of them." "No, I am not," Peter replied. About an hour later, another man insisted, "This man must have been with Jesus. They both come from Galilee." Think about a time when you gave in to peer pressure and disowned Jesus.
At daybreak, the nation's leaders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law of Moses got together and brought Jesus before their council. They said, "Tell us, are you the Messiah?" Jesus replied, "If I said so, you wouldn't believe me. And if I asked you a question, you wouldn't answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right side of God, all-powerful." Then they said, "Are you the Son of God?" Jesus answered, "You say I am." They replied, "Why do we need more witnesses? He said it himself." Everyone in the council got up and led Jesus off to Pilate. They started accusing him and said, "We caught this man trying to get our people to riot and to stop paying taxes to the emperor. He also claims that he is the Messiah, our king." Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Those are your words," Jesus answered. Pilate told the chief priests and the crowd, "I don't find him guilty of anything." But they all kept on saying, "He has been teaching and causing trouble all over Judea. He started in Galilee and has now come all the way here." Jesus is brought before Herod. When Herod heard this, he asked, "Is this man from Galilee?" After Pilate learned that Jesus came from the region ruled by Herod, he sent him to Herod, who was in Jerusalem at that time. For a long time, Herod had wanted to see Jesus and was very happy because he finally had this chance. He had heard many things about Jesus and hoped to see him work a miracle. Herod asked him a lot of questions, but Jesus did not answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law of Moses stood up and accused him of all kinds of bad things. Herod and his soldiers made fun of Jesus and insulted him. They put a fine robe on him and sent him back to Pilate. That same day, Herod and Pilate became friends, even though they had been enemies before this. Pilate answered, "But what crime has he done?" "Nail him to a cross," they yelled even louder. Pilate saw that there was nothing he could do, and that the people were starting to riot. So he took some water and washed his hands in front of them and said, "I won't have anything to do with killing this man. You are the ones doing it." They answered, "We and our own families will take the blame for his death." How would you feel if someone washed their hands of you? How would it feel to have no one on your side? Take a moment and place yourself in Jesus' position. Imagine the heartache. Imagine the feeling of abandonment. Jesus had done nothing wrong. Yet they still cried, "Crucify him." And Pilate literally washed his hands of Jesus.
The people kept on shouting as loud as they could for Jesus to be put to death. Finally, Pilate gave in. He freed the man who was in jail for rioting and murder, because he was the one the crowd wanted to be set free. Then Pilate handed Jesus over to them to do whatever they wanted with him. It's easy to assume we would not have acted the way the crowd did in this passage. But when we're angry, we often make choices we regret. And when we express our anger in a group setting, our feelings can build on each other. Have you ever judged someone unfairly because you were angry? How have your actions affected other people when you've been angry?
As Jesus was being led away, some soldiers grabbed hold of a man from Cyrene named Simon. He was coming in from the fields, but they put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large crowd was following Jesus, and in the crowd a lot of women were crying and weeping for him. Jesus turned to the woman and said, "Women of Jerusalem, don't cry for me. Cry for yourselves and for your children. Someday, people will say, women who never had children are really fortunate. At that time, everyone will say to the mountains, fall on us. They will say to the hills, hide us. If this can happen when the wood is green, what do you think will happen when it is dry?" 2 criminals were led out to be put to death with Jesus. When the soldiers came to the place called the Skull, they nailed Jesus to a cross. They also nailed the 2 criminals to crosses, one on each side of Jesus. Jesus said, "Father, forgive these people. They don't know what they're doing." While the crowd stood there watching Jesus, soldiers gambled for his clothes. The leaders insulted him by saying, "He saved others, that he should save himself if he really is God's chosen Messiah." The soldiers made fun of Jesus and brought him some wine. They said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." Above him was a sign that said, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging there also insulted Jesus by saying, "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and save us." But the other criminal told the first one off, "Don't you fear God? Aren't you getting the same punishment as this man? We got what was coming to us, but he didn't do anything wrong." Then he said to Jesus, "Remember me when you come into power." Jesus replied, "I promise that today you will be with me in paradise." We have all sinned. It was our sin that held Jesus to the cross. Because of our sin, Jesus gave his life as a willing sacrifice so that we may have forgiveness and eternal life.
Around noon, the sky turned dark and stayed that way until the middle of the afternoon. The sun stopped shining, and the curtain in the temple split down the middle. Jesus shouted, "Father, I put myself in your hands." Then he died. This nail is a physical reminder of the sacrifice that Jesus made on our behalf.
There was a man named Joseph who was from Arimathea in Judea. Joseph was a good and honest man, and he was eager for God's kingdom to come. He was also a member of the council, but he did not agree with what they had decided. Joseph went to the Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. He took the body down from the cross and wrapped it in fine cloth. Then he put it in a tomb that had been cut out of solid rock and never been used. It was Friday. The Sabbath was about to begin. The woman who had come with Jesus from Galilee followed Joseph and watched how Jesus was placed in the tomb. Then they went to prepare some sweet-smelling spices for his burial. But on the Sabbath they rested, as the law of Moses commands. Remember that this is not the end of the story. I hold this candle to represent the hope of Jesus' resurrection.
Our parting words today are simple but important. Do as Jesus says. Love one another just as Jesus has loved you. By this, the world will know you are a disciple of Christ.